Circe by Madeline Miller was a beautifully written book. The prose was lyrical. The way that the characters spoke really felt like they were from a different time. And overall, I really, really enjoyed it. But for me to kind of say why I enjoyed it, it actually helps. Or honestly, anytime I read any book, a lot of times I will go read the bad reviews just to see what other people think about it. And I know that can deter other people. Like if they read a book and they think it's a 5-star read and they read some of the 1, 2 stars and they're like, oh my gosh, did we read the same book? Like maybe it's not as good. But I actually use people's negative reviews to kind of make me think of why, does that matter to me? Like, was that important to me? And a lot of times, people's negative reviews of a book will just kind of help me define what exactly I like about the book. So, one of the things that I saw a lot when I was reading through the negative reviews is people saying that it was boring because she's spending a lot of time on her island, working on her craft, her magic, or her witchcraft, I mean, her potions and crushing herbs and all that. But for me, it's like, okay, this character is like, she's living centuries long, multiple centuries, possibly a millennia. She's not living like 70, 80 years like the rest of us. So her life and the fact that she's exiled, it's meant to feel like long and drawn out. And I really felt that with her book. And it was interesting because, like, yeah, in that sense, it is kind of boring, but it's not like boring for the sake of boring. It's boring with a purpose. It makes you feel her life and how long and tiring and how isolated she is and the redundancy of her living on this island alone, isolated from all this other more exciting stuff that's happening. So even though a lot of people didn't like that, I was like, it fits the story. It works for the story. And in my opinion, it enhances the story. Now, another thing that I did see kind of like that were in the negative reviews that I guess this one actually I do agree with was the incidents of SA and how that was supposed to be like her segue into being like a more feminist character because this book is advertised as being like a very feminist book. And I will say I don't think I was necessarily sold on that moment being that kind of a defining moment. Because for me, I honestly, I just thought it was odd at that point because she'd been on that island for a very long time at that point. She had, like she'd already done that crazy stuff with Scylla, Scylla, Skyla, lols, I don't know how to pronounce it. She had already seen her sister and helped with like the Minotaur and all that stuff. So she'd done stuff by this point. Like she had some semblance of power. Like she wasn't just a weak whatever being. And so I just wasn't convinced that any man could get the upper hand on her at that point. I was like, she's not new to this, I don't think. So when it happened and then it's like, oh, he crushed her windpipe, so that's why she couldn't say any incantations. I just wasn't sold. I was like, she's too powerful at this point. If this had happened a little earlier in the story, okay, maybe. But like not now. Like she's a little too far gone now. Not saying that it isn't feminist or doesn't have feminist points to it. I don't feel like that was it. Like, okay, I mean, yeah, afterwards when all those other sailors came, if she found out they had bad intentions, she turned them into swine. Great, cool, congrats, love that for you. But I feel like her feminism was more when she just took control of her own life. Like she dictated what she wanted to do. Like she spent so much of her life letting her family and the other gods and whoever just push her around and put her on the back burner, her own siblings, just like everybody she's just like a throwaway character in everybody's lives. And then like she finally like takes a stand. Like the first one is obviously when she doesn't give her son up to Athena, and she does her magic to protect the island, and she keeps up with it. To me, that was like an act of feminism. Granted, okay, it was against another woman, kind of, but like to me, she's taking autonomy for her own life. She's like, I know I want to keep this kid. I'm going to protect this child. I don't care what this other goddess is trying to get me to do. And then for me, the biggest final act of feminism for me, I guess, was when she, like I said, she took her life into her own hands. She called her father down and was like, you need to renegotiate this because I'm not staying on this island anymore. I have chosen a life for myself that I would like to live, that none of you guys are allowed to really have commentary on anymore. I've been doing it your way for all this time. I want to do it my way now. And then when she goes and she takes the flowers and she goes to tying up loose ends, I guess, is what she ended up doing, and choosing pretty much mortality because that's the life that she wanted. to me that was like the biggest feminist. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's my girl. Like, she is, after centuries of doing what other people wanted her to do, or living up to other people's expectations, listening to their rules, she finally decided, this is what I want to do now. So to me, that was much, much bigger than her like turning the men into pigs, even though that was great. But and then there were also some reviews that said that, like, that it was like jam packed with events but still boring, like, at the same time, because, like, obviously, like the herb crushing and wandering around the island kind of slowed the pacing down, but then there were so many other events, like different people that she was meeting or interacting with, and they're just like, oh, all of those should be delved into a little bit more. But I'm like, again, if you're really trying to feel the feel of her life of living in isolation and only having these small patches of like interactions with other people and actually experiencing her life or whatever, I feel like it was spot on. Like, again, we're not talking about our lives where, like, in the span of a few decades, a lot of things happen. We're talking about her life where, because she has allowed herself to be imprisoned on this island, her life is just really, really boring, bro. Like, it's long, it's just everlasting. She's constantly alone. She's just, so it's not a matter of, oh, just skimming over through these parts. All she has in her life essentially are like little pockets of things that are happening that are meaningful to her. Like when she had her little affair with Daedalus, or however you pronounce his name, and that was like a very meaningful, very kind of small, rebellious moment in her life. And then again, years pass, centuries pass, and she's just reminiscing, like, oh yeah, I heard this and this happened to him. It just, I mean, one could interpret it as boring, but to me, it's just like, man, she has just been squandering her life on this island, and everybody else's lives have just been passing her by. Same thing with like Hermes. Like, everyone's like, oh, he's such a great character, he should have been there more. But I'm like, just the fact that he is like her little snippets of information on all these big things that are happening outside that she's not witnessing, it just shows even more so like just the nature of her life and her existence on this little itty bitty island. Now, of course, there is always like that little added bit, because I know some of the negative reviews I saw were people that are a little bit more into Greek mythology and they know the details. Like, I know a decent amount of Greek mythology. I don't know like super details. Like for Circe, for me, she was just like a small part of like Odysseus's tale, so I didn't know too much about her. But there are people that are like, oh no, actually she's supposed to be more badass. Like, this entire time she was supposed to be more of like a intelligent, like cunning witch, and to make her seem soft, which this book did, is like not a true characterization of who she was. So I mean, I can get that argument, because for someone who has no real knowledge of Circe besides her role in Odysseus' life, I'm like, I'm open to all interpretations, and I honestly enjoy this interpretation. So there is always something to be said with that. Like, I do recall, like, when she was doing the yellow flower thing at the end, I'm aware that between her and then Odysseus's wife and Telemachus and Telegonus, they marry each other's sons and they all are immortal. So yeah, that's definitely a little bit of a change. That would kind of change her ending. I mean, not so much, because again, she's taking her life into her own hands. She's deciding what she wants to do with it. So it's not that different, but the argument is there, so I can definitely see that if people didn't like this book because they know about Circe already and it's just not who they envision. But from someone who doesn't know, I genuinely very much enjoyed this interpretation of a character who's never really the main character but was suddenly made the main character. But yes, the book was lovely. I would recommend. And as my painting, as you can see, I just more or less did the cover. I tried to do some of the flowers on top. I still haven't figured out this gouache paint though, so it is what it is.